Hello and welcome everyone. Today I will be showcasing an add-in I've developed that's going to change how you handle limiting distance calculations in Revit. I was inspired by Trust 3D and Nicolas Catelier's limiting distance workflows, but felt that I needed to automate the process a little bit more. If you haven't seen their videos, go check them out. Links in the description below. Now, if you're anything like me, you've gotten your limiting distance calculations wrong more than once. Between getting distances, building face areas, and tallying openings, there's always a lot of work to prove that your design is code compliant. I developed this tool to keep my calculations and data within Revit, instead of relying on Excel and scratchpads. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting with building code analysis, this tool will save you hours of manual calculations and documentation. It's built to work with your design workflows, but it does require some special families and parameters. Let's dive into how it works. To start, we need to set up our Revit model with the families and parameters that I mentioned. I'll go to the Limiting Distance Calculator tab in the ribbon, and we can see here the 4 commands that comprise this add-in. When I click Prepare Model, I'm going to get a pop-up window that prompts me to navigate to the folder containing all these families. Go in here, we'll select the 3 of them. Now we'll see them a little later. As we load them in, we get notifications they've been loaded. Next, we're going to look for the shared parameter file. Again, it's right here. We'll click open and get another notification saying that it's been imported successfully. Lastly, we get another window that shows that we've loaded the Revit families, we've imported shared parameters, but then we've also created a filled region type that we need, along with a building face schedule that can be helpful for keeping track of your building face areas. We'll hit close, and then we're ready to go on with the rest of the tool. Now that our model is prepared, we need to establish our exposing building faces. To do that, we go into an elevation view, and we'll create a filled region. When we create the filled region, it needs to be the building face type. That's the custom type that was created when we ran the prepare model command. Now that the boundaries are properly set, we'll name this face using the LD building face parameter. In this case, we'll call it East. Next, we need to jump into a plan view and set the limiting distance for the East building face. Now we're using the compartment limiting distance detail item. It's a line-based detail item, and that just lets us draw the limiting distance between the exposing building face and whatever element we're measuring to. Now in this case, it's our side yard property line on this east elevation. Once we've placed that, we're going to go and name this building face with the east building face because it matches the east building face that we created in elevation. Now that these 2 components are set up, we're ready to move on to our next step. Now we move on to the core functionality, calculating limiting distance. We're going to run the calculating limiting distances command, and we're greeted by this pop-up window that allows us to choose a few calculation methods for generating our max percent of unprotected openings. Currently in the beta, the manual entry is the only form that we have working. And when we select that, we're greeted by another window that gives us a grid of all of the exposing building faces that we have named in our model. Now within this demo model, I only have the one. I'll show you in some screenshots what models look like when they've got multiple building faces in them. But this grid is generated based off of the filled region types of the building face that actually have names to them. The limiting distance is generated through that detail line, so it's also possible to have exposing building faces that show as having a 0 limiting distance. Now, where I'm located here in Alberta, our max unprotected opening for this building face would be 9%. So I'm going to manually type that in. Within this grid window, the max unprotected openings is the only form that we need to manually fill out. Everything else is automatically calculated. We're going to hit submit, and then we'll see that we have this drafting view that gets created. And it's actually a table comprised of some line work that's generated automatically, along with this generic annotation symbol that we can then schedule, and a header, just so that we know what all of these values are actually showing us. Now this view gets created and recreated every time we run the Calculating Limiting Distances tool. We'll see there's also some added functionality on the other commands in this tool that can help populate our unprotected opening area and the actual UPO, along with refreshing that as we need to. Now the third command in this set tallies the total area of unprotected openings in each exposing building face sets. Here's how it works. We'll jump into a model view. Here I've got my 3D view. I'm going to run the add elements to exposing building face, and we can see this dialog window that shows us a list of all the exposing building faces we have in the model. Within this, we can select elements to add to each set by clicking the select element buttons. This closes the window, it takes us into Revit, and it opens a multi-select command. Now I'm going to choose these 3 windows as they're the ones on my east exposing building face. When I hit finish, this window reappears, and we can see that for the east building face, I'm adding 3 elements. And within this instance of the window, I have updated my selection set. So we'll hit confirm, closes out of the window, and then we're going to go to our limiting distance legend, and we can see here that those windows get added to the unprotected opening area, and now our actual unprotected opening percentage is also automatically calculated. Now this tool relies on the opening element getting that same building face value as the building face that it belongs to. In this case, the east building face gets east building face windows. Now because you can set that parameter manually if you need to make small changes, we have our recalculate the UPO tool. Let's look at that next. The recalculate UPO tool updates the actual area value for each filled region based on the face name. Now, because within our design we're so often iterating our massing, our openings, where a building face is relative to a property line, it's important to be able to quickly verify that the current design is code compliant before we present that to a client. Now let's say that we've added a cantilever to an upstairs bedroom. That face is closer to the property line, so now we have to recalculate our max unprotected openings. Or if the client wants to add some windows in the middle of a design meeting, we can quickly verify code compliance or give a max area of glazing to be code compliant right there in the meeting. So this command is particularly useful during design iterations when our building face or opening geometry changes. Instead of running the prior 2 tools from scratch, we can quickly update all of our calculations within one click. Let's jump into 3D and I'll show you how this works. I'm in my 3D view here, and I'm going to say that the client doesn't want to have these windows in their bedroom. We'll delete them and we're only left with the 1. We'll recalculate the UPO. We'll go back into our limiting distance legend, and here we can see that the UPO area is equivalent to one of our windows. Now in this case, we are rounding up pretty heavily, and that rounding can be set by the units that you have in the model. And there we have it, our limiting distance calculator add-in for Revit that lets us quickly take an existing Revit model, verify our limiting distances, our exposing building faces, and ensure that any of the openings are code compliant. Now before we wrap up, I want to share a couple of tips that will save you even more time as you use this tool. First off, we always want to run the Prepare Model tool at the start of a new Revit model. Even better if you have a template, run it in that. That way you always have the shared parameters, the Revit families, and the filled region types at your fingertips when you need them. Secondly, create a dedicated view template for your limiting distance elevations. We want to make sure that we can see our building face filled regions, along with any of the model elements that we need to establish the exposing building faces. Having all of these filled regions on their own view template is going to help keep our permit or construction drawings uncluttered, while still letting us use the tool and extract data straight from Revit. And that's it. You now have everything that you need to start using the limiting distance calculator tool. I'm excited to announce that you can try all of these features for yourself in our free open beta. Click the link in the description to join. This round of beta is currently running until June 2025. If you found this to be helpful, please like and subscribe for more tutorials and updates on this tool. I'll be releasing more videos about advanced features and more add-ins. Drop a comment below if you have any questions or suggestions. Thanks for watching. and I'll see you in the next one.